All right, let's do this thing. Ready for the lure to seep within my mind. Like Savathun's claws into my loins. I can't wait to learn. Myelin, Nohjja, good to see you, fellas.
You're late.
I am. Apologies.
You just lost some Earlo.
I got hung up on some chicken wings, man, and before I knew it, it was 8 o'clock.
Oh.
So
Okay.
but I'm here, and I gotta tell you, the chicken wings were fire. They were fire. I'm excited for the night. And I'm so glad we waited, Myelin, because I know we talked about doing this past weekend, and then the launch trailer happened. So it's perfect.
You got prime poll, mate, like week before Witch Queen. That's pretty good.
Yes.
So yeah, look, there's no like format to this.
Okay.
You just ask away if you've got questions. I'll do my best to answer. We've also got Twitch chat. We've got absolutely ginormous brains who can help out if I don't have something.
Heck yeah.
If I need to look something up, I'll try to look it up, and just imagine it like a fire team lore chat.
Love it.
The Winnower / maybe Skira / the Darkness. Is it inevitably going to be some inconceivable? We just can't even comprehend what it truly is. Like what the darkness physically is. Do our stupid human brains, we just don't got it. We just can't even like see it. And it's just this force that just kind of exists. And it like crushes us with invisible weight.
So I would say there is somewhat of a hierarchy that we know of the darkness and the light. We know that there is the cosmic force, like the light and the darkness, which is technically what we use, right? We use the light, we use the darkness. This is the whole idea of using it like a tool. And then you have, I guess, what would be directly underneath that, and what you said, which would be the gardener and the winnower, which would be the earliest record of the embodiment of those philosophies, I guess, because that whole story is about the light, which is the gardener, is about creation and building, and the winnower is about reaping the crops, right? They're about destroying and destruction, and they lived in balance in the Black Garden. So I think what they're setting up is the entity to be something that we can actually see and destroy. And I think the entity could be the winnower itself and the deep. There's a lot of things sort of going in that direction. It's either that or it's like second in command underneath the winnower.
So what this leads me to believe, though, given our recent dialogue we've got from Savathun, I'll paraphrase here, but, you know, standing on the line and looking up to see what's actually been watching us the whole time, is that just a direct, hey, that's the entity? Or
yeah, that's
a
tough one.
It is. Yeah, I've been racking my brain for that one. Is it possible, though, that like two sides of the same coin, the darkness and the light are, they for the lack of a better term, belong to whatever is watching us? And it's like,
so yeah, the Watcher. So for those who don't remember, in this season, Sin of the Lost, there is a cutscene, there's this dialogue when you go and do your weekly quest. You talk to the crystal, you talk to Savathun. She says something like, you look down, on one foot is the light, on the other foot is the darkness, and you look above, haha, you don't even know it's been watching you the whole time, the Watcher. And it's like, well, if the darkness is on the floor, it means there is something bigger and different that oversees everything.
Okay.
So, but is that a trick? I don't know. And there was an interesting thing that happened, and chat's already memeing on it, about Skira. When Season of the Lost came out, they actually updated Season of the Splicer dialogue in the what's the activity called?
Override.
The Override. They updated the dialogue that you got in Override when Season of the Lost came out. And one of the dialogue options was, I can't remember who's talking. I want to say it was Mithrax. But they say there's this legend in Lixney about the Watcher. Oh, sorry, Skira. Did I say Skira the Watcher? I have to get my quotes right. About Skira. And we have never heard of Skira ever before. This is like the only time it's ever been said, and it got introduced in Season of the Lost. In an old activity. So
that's interesting. They went back and updated that.
Yeah, so like, is that a hint? Is that a clue? Is that part of this idea of this Watcher? And it almost sounds like a wish dragon with how they describe it, or it's a little bit different. It's like it needs to be believed in to be real or something like that.
So Skira, who is that again?
Oh no. Override mission complete 5 months ago. Skira the Watcher, Season of Splicer.
No, but similar. A demon of our past, defeated.
How?
Not with weapons or words, but with silence. Our fear and belief made Skira powerful. When we ceased being afraid, Skira ceased to be.
Word only that simple, Mithrax.
That's all we got. That's literally all we have on Skira.
What I want to know, this goes back to the Book of Sorrows. So we see the launch trailer yesterday at like 24 seconds, and it shows of course it shows what appears to be Savathun holding the white worm, right? Is that the white worm that came from their father?
Yes.
Okay.
I assume so. So there was the Osmium King, obviously had 3 kids, Savathun, Oryx, and Zivir Wrath. And he had a dead white worm, which was called a familiar, which is like I think a familiar is like a witch's pet. Do you know? It's like that's like a real word, a familiar, and it would talk to them. Would talk to the king anyway, and the Osmium King was the one to discover the syzygy that was going to happen in his orrery, like his sort of way of studying the moons, and realized that there was going to be a big tidal wave, and also everyone thought he was insane because he was talking to this worm. Eventually, when the Osmium King was killed, Savathun got the worm, the dead white worm, the familiar, and that's what told them to dive deep into the Fundament, where they met the worm gods themselves.
Is this worm related in any kind of way to the worm gods? I mean, it's worm, right? So I mean,
the dead white worm?
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine it's similar to larvae, but maybe I don't think we really have any other information on like its origin. Oh, I think chat might be able to correct me. I think it washed up on shore and the Osmium King found it. That's all I can remember from its origin. But I assume it did. Yes. Yeah. So I just say it's related to the worm god, similar to the larvae is, but it obviously has more influence than, well, maybe not. Maybe the worm we get out of Savathun's going to have a similar function as the white worm, which is what I was thinking, which is why they showed it, right? They show the white worm with Savathun. Okay. And then we see like another worm with Zavala. I'm like, that's interesting, like juxtapositioning of that scene.
Sure. I mean, it's a different kind of worm, right? I mean, it doesn't quite, but I mean, who's to say that the worm just didn't change a little bit? I mean, the Godwave. Was that something by chance, or was that something intentional? And did the Traveler have anything to do with it being intentional to create that Godwave?
Yeah. So according to, this is like part of the hard thing, and obviously like the Books of Sorrows from the perspective of the Hive. So this is all with the caveat that the Hive believe, yes, that the Traveler was the final piece to cause the Godwave. And so the 52 moons of the Fundament were going through like an alignment, and the Traveler, being a giant ball itself, tagged onto the end to essentially cause the tidal wave, the syzygy, the God wave. And the idea for that, and this is actually the interesting thing, because I don't know if you watched the interactive trailer. Did you do the Witch Queen interactive trailer at all?
I watched a piece of it. Is it just the one from last week? I can't really recall.
Yeah, and you can like click on stuff and you get like a little bit of lore in there.
Yep.
It's interesting because they sort of they obviously can only say so much in a paragraph. So they sort of call the Fundament the home world of the Hive, which is not quite correct, because in the Books of Sorrow, it's meant to be that the worm gods were trapped on the Fundament, and it sort of implies that they called all this life to the Fundament because to escape they needed to form a symbiotic bond, right? So the Hive original home planet crashed into the Fundament, cracked apart, caused these like floating continents from the original home planet, and that's where you have all these different factions of Hive that fight against each other. You have the Osmian Throne, you have the Helium Drinkers, and the reason why that's important is the Godwave was the Traveler's way of destroying everything on the planet to prevent the worm gods from forming a symbiotic pact. So that like makes sense, I guess, from the Hive's history. It's like, okay, the Traveler wanted to cause this and realize, okay, well, yes, I'm going to kill trillions, which is what it also says, but we will keep the worm gods trapped on this planet.
Did the God Wave actually occur?
I believe it did.
Okay.
Chats? Question mark? Godwave actually happened.
Okay.
They obviously got off planet beforehand, and the worm gods escaped with Oryx, Savathun, and the rest of the Hive. Yeah, it happens. Yep. So yeah, Traveler killed trillions, by the way.
Nice.
Good guy, Traveler.
I love it. That's the guy we work for, everybody.
And you know, I suspect that's why Ikora's having these visions of the Hive in the trailer. Is it's like to make people empathetic to their story, because it's like the Hive only lived for 10 years. They were preyed upon. Their world was toxic. They did what they had to do to get off planet, which is exactly what we're doing now. We just go around killing shit too to survive. So it's, you know, I have a feeling that's why we're getting the OG Hive story in Witch Queen is part of Savathun's like, I'm not the bad guy kind of deal.
The Leviathan was on Fundament, yes?
It was a Leviathan on Fundament, yes.
What exactly is that, like Leviathan as in like the big ship Calus is flying around space, or what are we talking about in terms
No,
of
I think it was just coincidence they were both called Leviathan. I don't think there's any other link between the Leviathan on the Fundament and Leviathan as Calus's ship. We just know that the Leviathan was like an agent of the light. And
weird.
So when the sisters found the dead worm, they got told to dive deep in the Fundament. They went and got this is like really cool. They went and got this ship called the Needle. And they like dived into the depths of the Fundament. I'm just thinking like giant squid territory, right? They just kept going down. And they come across this massive beast, a Leviathan. And the Leviathan speaks to them, and they're like, no, turn back, embrace the light. There's only death and destruction here. And it essentially tries to convince them to not keep going, where they'll eventually meet the worm gods. And I'm pretty sure the worm gods say that they're trapped in the Fundament by the Leviathan. And obviously they ignore them, and you know, Savathun, Oryx, and Zivu are like, no, there's only death for us. We know that the Syzygy's coming. We know the Godwave's coming. Like, there's nothing for us if we don't try to do this. And so they ignore the Leviathan, they dive deep, and that's when they meet the worm gods.
So we don't have any physical descriptors of what the Leviathan like looks like? Nothing in the lore that points to...
There might be in one of the Books of Sorrow. I'll have to consult the tomes to see if there is... I think it says the Leviathan was as big as a continent. Does it not? I don't think there's anything other descriptions.
He's just a big boy.
Big old whale.
Big old boy.
Why wouldn't he have killed the sisters then, if he knew that that's where they were going?
I don't know why the Leviathan didn't do anything like physically to stop them. Oh, hold on. Nice little quote. Another nice little quote here from Scanning Wolf. And the Leviathan loomed over them, its brow as huge as the continents of their childhood, its great array fins crackling with lightning of its life, booming into the hull of the needle ship in a microwave voice. Oh, it was killed later. Yeah. Okay. I'm not too sure why it didn't just like straight up stop them, but it just has a conversation. It's like, bro, you should go back. And they're like, nah, we're going to keep going. And then
yeah,
they head off.
Is Calus going to be the raid boss?
The reason why it seems to make sense is this whole connection to Mars. We know that Calus wanted to commune with the darkness. He was promised to be the harbinger of the end of the world, and he's trying to get back to that spot. His whole storyline is the end of the world, the end of the universe is coming, so why not enjoy it? Why not grow fat with strength? I'm going to have my homies next to me at the end of the world, the shadows of Calus. It's all good, right? And the darkness never got back to him, and so he turned into a bit of a ex-partner, like, bro, why'd you stand me up? What you doing? Like, I need to get back to you. And that's why he flies the Glycon next to the anomaly of Mars, tries to make contact. He uses the Crown of Sorrow, he uses Scions, he uses the Scorn as vessels to essentially take in the darkness so he can make a phone home, so he can have a call with the darkness.
Right.
And then he disappears. We assume he makes contact and he just disappears. So the fact that we see Mars returning, we see Scorn in Witch Queen material, and we know that Scorn were a vessel for the darkness, and we haven't had a resolution to the Calus storyline. I think it would, and we've had a lot of information about the entity, which has just been super new information this season of the Lost. Marasov basically starts piecing all this together for us that we can, the entity is a darkness. It controls the Taken. It controls the pyramid ships. It controls Ziva Wrath. Controls the Scorn. So it all sort of starts to link together, but there's nothing that like obviously confirms it, but all the puzzle pieces are there, and it would 100% make sense for it to have like a Calus entity, a Calus possessed by entity, like in the pyramid ships. The only thing that's maybe disputes it is the description on the website. What does it say, chat? An ancient danger. Like go into the pyramid ship and destroy the ancient danger imprisoned there. So we know that something's imprisoned on the pyramid ship. And we know that the entity is pursuing Savathun, right? So, if she did imprison Calus, possessed by entity, that would sort of match the description, but not quite.
Would slaying an entity possessed Calus be a good setup for the introduction of the actual entity into Lightfall?
Yeah, I see what people are saying, because like maybe this is the long plan to like start setting up the entity, and that be like Lightfall or something like that. That would definitely make sense if you think about what would be the greatest threat to the light. Do you know what I didn't mention about Calus? This is really important, okay? It wasn't Game Informer. It was another article. Maybe you can find the link. In that article, I quote from a dev. They said, "We've got more stuff coming for Calus. We can't wait to show ya. We're not talking about it yet."
Ooh. Wow. And we haven't heard anything since.
Yes, we haven't had anything since, but they did mention it. Direct quote from a dev. They got stuff like in the same vein as like persistent villains or persistent characters.
There you go, chat. Confirmed. Calus is the raid boss next season.
Straight up.
What's strange to me is that Calus has this like doomsday, and maybe this is just what he interpreted from the darkness, but he has this like doomsday. Everybody's gonna die. Darkness is coming back. Nobody's coming out of this thing, right? And what's strange about that is that the darkness itself communicates to us that the worthy may live, and by all accounts, since Guardians are basically the most worthy beings, like we've never lost, and we keep winning over and over again.
Undefeated, man.
So why is it that Calus includes us, or it sounds like he includes us when he's talking about it? He's like, I want you to be at my side when the end comes, and blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of him insinuating, or at least to me, it sounds like he's convinced that no beings will be worthy of existence because the darkness is just going to get pissed and be like, nah, everything's gone. including Guardians.
I'm pretty sure his conviction to this idea of the end of the universe came from a vision, and that he had a vision of just everything being destroyed. I'm pretty sure he mentions a fleet, which is likely the pyramid ships.
Right.
And I think that's where his conviction comes. Like, yeah, everything's gone. The pyramid ships win. We'll have to find the exact quote, but that is what I think happened. So when he met the darkness, he was on the Leviathan. They exiled him, and they sabotaged the control system. And so the Leviathan was just floating into space, and he thought everything was gone. And eventually, he talks about they came across a is it a tear in space? The nothing, right?
Yeah.
And he has a conversation, and I believe that's when he has this vision of the end of the universe, and that's what changes his whole opinion. All right, I got it here. We have come upon the end of the world, and I've stared into its expanse. It has whispered into my ear, and I'm enlightened. Death is coming, and it has made me its herald. The end will eat everything. Here, the emperor gave a great sigh, as if a weight was lifted off him. And when nothing matters, what's left? Joy, comfort, freedom. The true freedom of pursuing pleasure for pleasure's sake, because it pleases you, because you desire it. I knew this during my rule, and I'd forgotten it during my exile. I shall not forget it again. The emperor was encouraged by his advisors and myself to rest, in case the bizarre behavior was a passing sickness of the mind. Before he retired to his observation room, the emperor described his encounter in detail. Zozon offered to me this bizarre retelling. Outside the ship, the Emperor looked over the edge of the universe and saw nothing. That is, it wasn't that he saw nothing unusual, but he saw nothing, with a capital N. The absence of light, dark, life, death, the absence of everything. Even the absence itself. And out of the nothing, there came whispering in a dark language, which filled his head so loud that he forgot for a moment his own language. And suddenly the nothingness dispersed to show something, which was a fleet of foreign ships. He saw next the destruction of great many worlds and creatures, including all his enemies and himself. And he saw the rot and fragmentation of his own corpse and skeleton. And last, before he was released, the whispers grew louder and granted him the honor of spreading the news of the end.
Well, just to piggyback off of Nohjja's question, could the darkness have given him this legitimate vision, but at some point just changed their mind when
they're like, I found someone better.
I found the Guardians, so this whole wipeout method kind of out of the question now. Let me. And then what season of the rivals and everything else?
Well, I mean, the irony is Guardians don't really follow the philosophy of the light. Like we like you said before, we sort of prove the sword logic. We prove we're the strongest. We haven't been beaten. We haven't been killed.
Right.
We keep cutting away weakness, and the Darkness would probably argue, yeah, that's correct, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, you're proving that you belong in the final shape of the universe. That's sort of the motto of the Darkness is we create the best universe by getting rid of weakness, and the opposite's true of the light, which is why it's about creation. You build the best universe.
Oh, I see. So
that's why the Hive have the sword logic, right? That's why they keep destroying everything. But it's ironic because we sort of do something pretty similar.
Is the pyramid ships? They fall under the darkness, right? And the worm gods, they also fall under the darkness, right?
Yeah.
Who's head honcho here? Is it Doritos or is it worms?
I would say the worms and Doritos are like on the same level of hierarchy, and above them is the entity.
Okay, gotcha.
We know that the entity controls the pyramid ships. Well, according to Marasov. Marasov confirmed that this season. She said the entity controls the fleets and the Taken. I mean, if you really wanted to be technical, you could probably write a different hierarchy. You could say maybe the Winnower, then the Deep / the entity, then the pyramid ships and the worm are like agents of the darkness underneath that.
So.
Oh yeah, actually, people are saying pyramids are above worms. Yeah, that's. Yeah, you could say that too. Chat got so triggered when I said the worm gods and the Sorry, hold on. Actually, Myelin, I made a mistake, chat.
Oh man.
Oh, are ghosts or the equivalent of worm god?
Well, the worm gods is like, I mean, they're parasitic, right? I don't think you could describe the ghosts as parasitic.
Well, sort of. They're not very powerful by themselves, right? The ghost needs a guardian to like bring out their full potential.
Oh my god, yeah. So it's
But how do they know that?
You ever see a ghost and throw a Nova bomb?
Well, no, that's what's weird about this whole thing.
Well, this season is season of season of the Risen, right?
The Risen,
All right. Is there going to be any old Risen return of the original? Like, what would that be?
So like Dark Age first Guardians were called the Risen. I can't really remember my Dark Age a lot. Titan obviously comes to mind, but I can't remember exactly his story. But I don't think the intention is that they're bringing back people from the Dark Age or that era, the warlords. I think it's just meaning that was the first word for Guardian when we didn't have a better name.
Gotcha.
And obviously, like Hive Guardians, if you think about like the living world of Destiny, you wouldn't want to call them Guardians because they're not protecting humanity.
Right.
So you got to call them something else. So I think they maybe just calling them Risen might be the play there.
Right. Taox.
I knew this was coming up.
Where is she? She overthrew.
Because of the old friend? Is this why your chat brought this up?
Yeah. So it was said. Savathun said in the trailer yesterday. What was the word there? Yeah. So
I've been chasing my old friend or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So who is this old friend? Savathun mentions, and could it be Taox? And then what even happened? I mean, of course, it seems like we just don't know what happened to Taox. And then my final question is there something powerful about Taox? Or I don't know how much help she had in overthrowing Savathun's dad, but could you say she's powerful as well?
So this comes back to the idea of there being like multiple factions of Hive or proto-Hive on the Fundament that were, fighting each other. The Osmian throne, you had the Helium Drinkers. There's a couple other names that escape me right now, but there are a couple other smaller factions too. Taox was originally the teacher of the kids, the Oryx, Savathun, Xivirath. She was described as she couldn't have children. She couldn't take what they call the mother jelly, I think it was. And so she was like a royal teacher, or like a Hive Mary Poppins. I don't know, something like that. She looked after the kids. She taught them about proto-Hive culture kind of thing.
Nice.
And so it was obviously pretty close to Oryx, Savathun, and Xivirath. She didn't believe that the Osmian king was a good fit for the throne because he did seem to be going insane, talking to his worm and spending all of his time in his study looking at the syzygy. And so she went to the other side. She went to the Helium Drinkers to basically have a coup or to help them invade the Osmian throne and kill the king, and also planned to kill Oryx, Savathun, and Xivirath to get rid of that line. So
some Game of Thrones shit.
Yeah, so she betrayed them, and so that is why people bring her name into it, because old friend, you read the Books of Sorrow, those kids have like an obligation to kill the traitor, which is Taox.
Right.
As far as we know, she never had a worm, and obviously like millennia has passed since that time or something like that. And she did have a couple ways that extended her life. She was found in like stasis, not darkness stasis, but like a stasis preserving her body at one point in time. and she was like unfrozen, and I believe she gave some information to some enemies that Oryx was fighting at the time. And then I want to say she just sort of disappeared, and I never found her. I think she escaped when Oryx eventually beated that race.
Could she somehow be connected to the entity?
It would make sense if she was going to come back to be on the other side of Savathun. Well, I mean, yeah, she could team up with the entity to try to take out Savathun and the pyramid ships. I think that would be reasonable. I think she's got to get through a few more hoops before before she gets to the point like being alive.
Right.
That's possible. I don't think it's likely, but I wouldn't be mad either. I wouldn't be mad if they introduce some way that she survived all these years. The traitor is back, and Savathun's like, "Yo, I captured the traitor. She's in the pyramid ship. Why don't you take her out for me, please and thanks."
And imagine the alliance, because here's what I'm speculating, Myelin. Maybe I'm just being hopeful here, but I'm hoping one day Savathun and us will actually be the greatest of allies, you know? And
I don't think we're going to kill Savathun.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to kill her. And I think she would love us even more if we killed the traitor or helped kill the traitor.
True. I mean, it's just like Savathun to use us to take out her enemies, right?
Yeah.
That's what she's been doing the whole time.
What is life like in the Last Save City? Do we have a caste system? What does it mean for the city now that like the factions are gone?
What comes to mind is when we had the Endless Night and the fear that sowed in sort of the general populace. Like when I think it was just some random civilian like thought he saw a fallen or a Lixney and was fearful of it, and he almost shot his son. His son was like standing at, like he walked into his backyard or something like that, and thought he could hear Lixney, and then he like raised his gun and was about to pull the trigger, and then he thought he was shooting at Lixney, and then eventually the sort of cloudiness lifted, and he realized he was pointing the gun at like his kid. I think that was some of the most descriptions of the people in the city, but I don't really have anything else that I think describes. Sorry, did I say the lost season of the Splicer gave us that? Yeah. Sorry, season of the Splicer. I don't know really what else you would look for unless chat's got some suggestions on what it's like in the city. I don't really feel like it's a good question. I don't think we really get much information on like general city life.
Yeah.
Don't know. What are you thinking?
Me?
You got any thoughts on it, or are you just like, I wonder what it's like down there?
You're the lore guy. I
want to go. Really... I'm ready for player-owned houses. Like I'm ready to put up, whatever we kill Oryx's face on the wall. Like I'm hoping that's the direction Bungie takes us. So yeah, we could be amongst the people. I'm fine with it. Well, so I'm gonna take a different direction from Nohjja's question. Yep. I actually want to get further away from the peasants. When are we going to the old D1 tower? Will that happen in D2? Just the higher we go, the better.
No, we don't need to go back. The only thing back there is Ryul's stall, where he used to decrypt exotic engrams into fucking loose. Okay, so just remember that. Whenever anyone says, "Let's go back to Tower 1," we'll go, "Good luck, mates." Remember that.
It even needs some
purples and the
upgrades.
blues.
Yeah, that's true. Skipping back to the trailer real quick. At 29 seconds, it shows, of course, the three worm gods, which very similar to Xol, but they have to be significantly powerful than Xol. So, like, if Xol was a 5, these guys have to be like 500 power level, right?
Over 5,000,
or maybe over 5,000, right?
What's the quote? Over 9,000?
Over 9,000.
Over 9,000, yeah.
I'm quite. Yeah. You're not a real Dragon Ball fan, or you would know that.
Surely.
Actually, there is a hierarchy to the worms. There was Xol the weakest? Correction, chat. Xol was the smallest one, the weakest one. So these would be more powerful. I do think that the reason the worm gods are featured in that trailer is not that we'll face them. It's just telling the story of how the Protohive made the bargain and the worm gods were trapped in the depths of the Fundament, because they didn't really pop out like that. Well, we have no descriptions of them doing that. I think that's just sort of representing, because as the trailer zooms in, you see Oryx, you see Xivu, and then you see Savathun with the white worm,
right? And
they're on a tiny continent. So I think it's everything's sort of out of proportions and dream-like. So I don't think it's meant to imply that we're going to fight another worm god, but rather that they're worm gods on the Fundament, and that's their backstory.
I do gotta wonder who she is talking to in that trailer, because
the old friend.
The old friend, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't.
Oh, okay. We actually didn't finish the rest of that because we only said Taox. The other option is probably the Traveler, right?
Who knows?
I think that would be the next theory on who she's talking to, is the Traveler, and is the Traveler communicating back to her? We obviously don't know yet. We've seen Aldrin, a crow, have a dream, which is similar to what the speakers would have with their connection to the Traveler with the Hawkmoon quest. Basically having visions, which is how they used to choose previous speakers. And obviously we had that vision, right, with the bird as well. So I don't know. Has Savathun does she also have a connection to the Traveler?
Next speaker. She's the next speaker.
Next speaker.
She's the next speaker.
Okay. Well, I mean, here's the thing. We don't know how she's going to steal the light, right? It's just we don't know how she gets the point of stealing the light. We know that she set up all these chess pieces. We know that she learned necromancy from Nohjja. We know that she stole ghost shells from Spider as Osiris. We know she has the Crown of Sorrow again. We know she's implanted Savathun's song. We don't know how all these bits and pieces come together for her to actually get the lights. And we know what the Traveler reawakened with gold, right? Rejected him, sort of thing. Blew him up.
Yeah.
So for her to actually get the lights, I don't know.
She has to be chosen,
Does she
right?
steal it? Is she accepted? Is she chosen? I don't know.
Speak.
Did she have to die first?
Ooh.
Ooh.
All right. I have to ask, because Aldrin, aka Crow, I like his character developments, but only because I want to see him fall again, and become evil all over again.
Oh, you're very brave saying those words.
Can that possibly happen? What is the likelihood that asshole Aldrin will in fact be back? And I'm just saying, I'm waiting for the betrayal, and I'm here for it.
You chose chaos, did you? So it's interesting to say that, because I think that's exactly the concept that Bungie is playing with, because long story short, they're playing with this idea as can Crow escape his destiny? Marasov teases you that he's prone to devotion. Marasov says that it brings out his old self when he's in the Awoken City. And that he can be a blank canvas to manipulate, essentially. And that's his whole narrative arc. Before he went into Black Garden, he was good guy Aldrin. He had fans. He was much loved in the Awoken. Went into Black Garden, got corrupted, got twisted by Riven. Events of Forsaken happened, resurrected. And then in Season of the Lost, they reintroduce the friend that he went to the Black Garden with, which was Jolyot, which is the beginning of this loop. And the lore that's told on is on a sparrow called eternal recurrence, meaning like an infinite loop.
Right.
So I guess like the idea is, will Aldrin fall into the same trap?
Yes.
Will he be corrupted again? Is it possible? Yes. Will they do it?
That's the thing. Will they do it? That's the thing. I just in my world, I dream of a moment where everything's great. We beat back whatever forces we have to beat back. Ikora, everyone's happy. And Ikora is fully trusting of Crow completely, right? And over the campaign, maybe we see a little glimpse of Aldrin, asshole Aldrin coming out, just peeping around the cracks. And then at the end of it all, he decides to take out Ikora. But of course, he talks some mad shit right before he does it. Like, you want to know how Cade sounded? Right before I shot him.
Ooh, man. Speaking of Crow, that's actually a good segue. So he is he the first Guardian that has been revived to gain access to who he was before in terms of like all of his memories given back to him? Because Anna Bray found out who she was, but that doesn't mean that she has all of her memories intact, because there was nothing that granted her. She just had to relearn about herself. So this is kind of where I'm going with this.
Okay.
What we could probably say is that we have a few instances of Guardians having access to who they previously were. At least a handful. So definitely Crow. Now, what I'm interested in is the Traveler seems to not want. Well, I don't want to say the Traveler doesn't seem to want us to know who we used to be or have any recollection of that. But the Darkness seems pretty keen on using people's, like if you look at the moon and stuff, right? It's using these memories to manifest these nightmares, torment people and stuff. Is there something with this final shape path that we're going towards where the Traveler has some reason that it doesn't want us to know what exactly we are?
There is a lot.
Darkness is kind of like okay with it, and it's like, hey, but I don't know. It's almost like it's there. Like I said earlier, a little bit. It's like two sides of the same coin. That these are just paracausal things, and that we're like made up of both sides because we can wield both because we're just paracausal. But like the Traveler doesn't want us to remember anything, and I'm like, why?
Look, there is a law entry that I can't remember who said it and where it is. So if chat knows it, we'll bring it up. But someone brings up, well, how do we know essentially the Traveler doesn't wipe our memories, because they're just making an army of light bearers, right? And if you want a soldier, you want to take away their memories. Okay, you don't want them to be attached to anything here, because you want them to believe what you tell them to believe.
Right.
And so the critical theory, or like the criticism of losing memories is this not just part of making a good soldier? And so Ghost can detect qualities I think are good to defend humanity, and you get your memories wiped, and that makes a Guardian now. I can't remember exactly where that is, but there is a lore entry that talks a little bit about that, and why the Darkness is maybe okay with memories or recovering memories. I think that's just part of like what we saw with Crow was, if you ask why did Savathun give Crow his memories back, and I would say that she wanted to push him away from Marasov. Because if Marasov got control over Crow as a Guardian again, and he was once again devoted to Marasov, he would be a very powerful tool in the hands of Marasov. Because the Awoken aren't Guardians, right? So she would have a Guardian on her team. Mm-hmm. So I think the Darkness, if the Darkness is okay with memories, I think it would be a similar reason to create discourse, and to create distrust in the Traveler. if we had our memories back, because maybe there's some shit that happened in the Golden Age. There's some other stuff that we don't remember, and maybe giving our memories back would help us switch sides. Are you guys gonna leave this with like more questions than answers? Welcome to the lore community.
Let's go, baby. I love it.
Welcome.
Well, we saw Anna Bray in the trailer at 36 seconds, right? In Zavala's office. Is Rasputin?
This is interesting. Yeah.
Is Rasputin back in the picture?
So, from memory, Rasputin in, was it Rivals? Season of Rivals was deactivated when the pyramids arrived, and Anna Bray put him into an experimental engram with the help of her ghost. I want to say Jinju is her ghost, into a pillory engram. And then there is a ink blot cutscene with Anna Bray hunched over an exo, like working on it. Ooh. And I believe there is some, I want to say it's web lore, where she's trying to put Rasputin into an exo.
No.
And I think that's where that story ends. We don't have any more information after that.
You said no.
Uh-huh.
That would be nuts.
Rasputin. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's interesting that Anna Bray's there, to be honest. I'll give it that.
Wait, Rasputin be mobile then? I mean, that's been the limiting factor more than anything, right? He's been kind of stagnant, you know. Holy hell!
I think if he went into an exo, they'll write it in that he loses some of the control as a war mind, because when they describe her transferring his like mind into the pillory engram, they make it very clear there was like an experimental engram and it wasn't ready yet, and then Jinju's like, we got to do it, it's either this or nothing. So I think if she does get Rasputin into an exo body, he's not going to have like full war mind control.
Ooh.
Otherwise you'd just be like, bruh, I control like weapon satellites. So yeah.
So then Saint 14 basically has to translate for him, and they just follow each other around.
Oh yeah, because of Russian.
Because nobody else speaks Russian.
That's actually pretty cool.
They're just
Can you imagine Rasputin just walking into the town and was like, yo, what's up? And he's like just saying hi in Russian as he walks through. I guess Anna speaks. Anna will translate for him, right?
Yeah.
Oh, true. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Savathun's throne world. Is it based on anything? Is it based, like, as far as the pretty portion? Is it based on where they grew up? Is this maybe what their place looked like on Fundament?
Yeah. So we've got a couple of clues about this. There was another article, Interview with Devs, and I want to say this is the Game Informer article, and they actually said that her throne world was an old hive realm reborn in the light. So I think what's going to happen is it's either her old throne world that she's then modified once she's got the light, or it's just like essentially a new throne world that she made using the light after she gets the light. And with all the like the Vidoc and the Witch Queen Bungie reveal stream, they keep saying this idea that it's like indistinguishable from her own mind. So we know in general that throne worlds are crafted by their users through will and desire. So they can sort of mold their throne world to whatever, essentially. And the Bungie devs have sort of talked about how Savathun has molded her throne world to what she wants like the high future to be. That's why she resides in a light castle. That's why the pyramid ship is in the jungle, and they say that this is like symbolic of rejecting the darkness,
right?
And the hive being aligned with the light. So we don't quite know. So because we see a statue of Oryx, right, fighting Akka in the throne world,
right?
And I got a couple of different theories on how this might work. One, is it meant to represent, because that's a pivotal moment for Oryx, because after killing Akka, he makes the Tablets of Ruin, he goes and speaks with the deep, and he comes back the Taken King. So this life moment is probably important for Savathun because this is the stage that she's at. She's about to become the Witch Queen. Okay, so maybe that's why it's there. The other reason it might just be there is because it's indistinguishable from her own mind. Maybe her throne world just has a mix of her memories in it. Okay, and that's why they're there. They have these different aspects that are her memories, and those like trees are like red trees in the throne world. I think they look similar to the flashback we got of the Fundament. I think they also had similar trees.
It had the
there,
same
right?
trees there at that where they were holding the white worm.
Yeah, yeah. So I imagine it's all there'll be aspects that reflect the Hive history in general.
Mm-hmm.
Is the light and the dark a metaphor for Cross and Anticross, and everybody watching him are his brain cells trying to fight for survival amidst the chaos?
That would make sense, wouldn't it? It's break the fourth wall. It's
Some
definitely
Matrix
true.
shit right here, man.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't talked about Ethereum and Osiris.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
yeah.
Did you see the tweet from Bungie? I retweeted before.
No.
They need to put him back together. I've been thinking, and chat's been thinking, that somehow his soul's gonna be in the worm, and that's why he's in a coma and hasn't woken up.
No.
Oh.
No.
That's
So
why-
then we
that's
can't
why
kill the
Zavala's-
worm. Or I guess is the
That's
worm
why
dead?
That's why Zavala's angry. That's why everyone's looking sad. Like, why is Ikora carrying the worm in that scene?
Oh my God! And she's doing it in such a loving way too.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
The worms need a host to survive. Yeah? So what if during the exorcism ritual, she's figured out a way to transfer the person who's in that parasitic relationship?
Well, here's the thing. We know the Hive have put like guardian souls into bugs before. Like we have Omer Agar from Erismon's fight and ended up in Xenophage.
So so you're saying that there's a potential. He is the worm now, and his body is just this thing that's...
Well, on the tweet, they said, Savathun in a tweet said that I left a scrap of whatever that's meant to resemble a man. You can put him back together. And then we have a scene where Zavala looks angry. Ikora's like contemplating, and then she's like carrying the worm.
This is not the same worm we're making a grenade launcher out of, right?
I mean,
It looks kind of similar. Is that what we're about to do with Osiris? We're about to just slap him in a geo?
maybe we made an exotic out of Omer Agar. I mean, Osiris is probably a little bit higher on the hierarchy of the Vanguard, but I mean, that's one way to.
Have to pay for a voice actor.
Yeah.
True.
So you probably saw the scene yesterday where, after the whole thing, Mara's like, she doesn't really admit anything that she did wrong, right? Like the whole thing, she's just like, shit happens, but at the end of the day, I'm Mara and I don't fuck up, right? But when she mentioned right here, her worm is mine, and she had this look on her face of just, that could have just been an animation timed perfectly, but it just looks evil.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, she looked a little bit angry, right?
It's just like, she just looked evil right there, right? And it just paired perfectly well with what she was talking about in regards to mentioning the worm is mine. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time. I have a hard time trusting this face,
Yeah, I think something's going to happen there. I mean, because it's got to... Yeah, so on the same thing, like if the worm's hers, then we end up like getting it. Or the Vanguard end up getting it. So if you have a look now on my stream, you'll see the scene I'm talking about where essentially the whole gang is is just Zavala's office. And look, like everyone's like watching Ikora cat. You can see the tail of the worm and you see his little heads. So this is a different angle from the one you get in the.
That's the worm. Ikora's holding it in a very loving kind of way.
Like, just yeet it. I don't know. I don't know if something's happened there. Like, why Mara doesn't have it? Why would she? Because I think we're going to get deep sight from the worm. Right? Because I think Mara says the worm will give us insight. And of course, when we go into the throne worlds, we get deep sight somehow to traverse it. So similar to how the white worm guided Savathun to the worm gods, I wonder if we're going to try to extract something from the dead worm, from Savathun, to guide us through the throne world.
Well, the interactive trailer mentioned something about opening a door that we may not be able to close in terms of the darkness, like our interaction with the darkness. So maybe this is both figuratively and quite literally. We're almost like, it's weird because there's a lot of parallels between like Oryx and like what he did, just different mechanism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have been seeing this name jump around, Immaru.
Yeah, that was today, the Facebook and Instagram message from a Hive commander called Immaru. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet.
I have not, no.
So, this is on Destiny Bulletin. I believe this would have been what the post said. While experiencing comm channel interference elsewhere, we gained access to internal Lucent Hive communications. Directive Immaru. I'm just playing now.
Attention all Lucent Hives. Immaru here with your marching orders. Got a high priority messenger passing through our territory. Keep those gun-toting lap maggots off her.
There is an image that flashes at the very end. I don't know if you spotted it, but when you listen to this is the image that flashes I've got up on screen right now. And someone made the comparison to, I believe this is in the Black Garden. It looks very, very similar. Whoa. So I guess the implication would be that this Hive commander, Immaru, is actually in the Black Garden, and he's just told his forces that this VIP is coming through. We need to protect her. So, assuming it's Savathun, but greatest connection so far, maybe a Black Garden thing going on.
Well, Myelin, GG's, man. Thank you so much for having us on. This was incredible.
I'm sure we'll touch base again after Witch Queen, once the dust settles, probably after the raid. I'm sure you'll have some
finally get some sleep. You know,
every question, lots of questions.
Oh man,
and we can catch up again, man.
For sure, guys. Thank y'all so much. Have a good one.
All right, see you later.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.